Racist cops corner black woman, but her army dog was trained to fight back. "Get your hands where I can see them." The command shattered the stillness of the quiet Georgia suburb like a bomb. Brielle Carter froze mid-step, one foot on the curb, one hand wrapped around the leather leash of her dog Titan, the other gripping a steaming stainless steel mug of coffee. The aroma of dark roast hung in the air for a second longer than the calm. Titan, her Belgian Malinois, immediately stiffened. He was tall, lean, black and tan with amber eyes and a presence that turned heads. Now, his growl rumbled low, primal, protective. Across the street, a patrol car screeched to a halt, tires spitting gravel. Two white officers burst out. Guns weren't raised, but their hands hovered too close to their holsters to ignore. One of them, a square-jawed man in his 40s, barked, "You match the description." Brielle didn't flinch. "What description?" "Black woman. Camo pants, black hoodie, walking a dangerous animal," the younger officer clarified, his hand twitching near his belt. Brielle looked down at herself. Olive drab cargo pants, hoodie with the sleeves pushed to her forearms. No purse, no makeup, just her and Titan. "And what crime exactly does that describe?" she asked, her voice calm, edged with warning. The older officer, his nameplate read McAllister, stepped forward, nostrils flaring. "Drop the leash, now." Titan let out a deeper growl, his posture shifted, alert, defensive, ready. "You sure you want to do this?" Brielle asked again, eyes narrowing. McAllister reached out fast. Too fast, Titan exploded into motion, not to attack, but to block. He lunged between Brielle and the officer, the leash jerking taut. McAllister stumbled back, startled. The other officer, Nash, shouted and drew his taser. A voice cracked from across the street. "I'm filming this." Brielle turned her head. A teenage boy in a red hoodie stood on his front porch, holding up a phone. His hand shook slightly, but his camera was steady. His voice, shaky but bold, carried across the street like a siren. McAllister cursed under his breath. "You're interfering with police activity," Nash shouted at the teen, flustered. "I'm on my porch," the boy yelled. "This is public. You're being recorded." Brielle stepped back, slowly raised her free hand, and said, "You're making a mistake." McAllister ignored her. He rushed forward again, this time shoving her shoulder. Titan snarled, ears pinned, teeth bared, but stayed put, disciplined to the core. He'd been trained not to bite unless commanded, but his body radiated readiness. "You're under arrest," McAllister growled, grabbing her wrist. "For what?" Brielle snapped, stunned at the escalation. "Walking my dog?" "Obstruction, suspicion, failure to comply." "Suspicion of what?" she barked. "Existing while black?" That earned her a punch of zip ties. Nash stepped in to grab Titan's leash, but the dog snapped at the air, not to bite but to warn. Nash jumped back with a scream. "We need animal control," he barked. Brielle looked at the teen still filming. "Keep recording," she said clearly. "Don't stop." 3 hours later, the holding cell was colder than it had any right to be. Brielle sat on a steel bench, her hoodie sliced open where the cops had checked for weapons. Her wrists throbbed from the zip ties, now replaced by cuffs. Her fingers were numb, but her mind buzzed with fear. Titan had been taken. They didn't know who she was. They would. Outside the bars, she heard laughter. McAllister again. "That mutt's probably gonna be put down," he said. "You should have seen the way it lunged." Nash chimed in. She looked like she was about to cry. "Bet she's some dog walker from the projects." Brielle rolled her eyes. Dog walker. Major Brielle Carter had spent 15 years in the U.S. Army. She wasn't just a soldier. She was a tactical K-9 commander, deployed to multiple combat zones, awarded 3 commendations for field operations, and had trained over 200 dogs for security, search and rescue, and combat. Titan wasn't just her dog. He was her partner, and he was registered under the Pentagon's Classified Animal Response Unit. Not that these idiots had checked. She had returned from Afghanistan only 10 days earlier. She hadn't told the local base she was back. She needed time, space, quiet. What she got was suburban Georgia, a racist tip-off, and 2 cops on a power trip. They thought she was nobody, that she had no name, no connections. They were so very wrong. Outside the cell block, shouting erupted. "You're detaining a woman with 0 charges on false identification. You denied her a phone call, and you confiscated a trained military K-9 like he was a stray." Brielle's eyebrows raised. She recognized the voice immediately. Reggie Price, a defense attorney and longtime family friend who had represented everything from traffic tickets to federal whistleblower cases. Smart, fierce, loud. A minute later, he stormed into the cell block. When he saw her, his face twisted with a blend of rage and disbelief. "Bree, what the hell?" She shrugged one shoulder. "Didn't want to play my card too early." "You're bleeding." "I've had worse." He glanced down at the report in his hand. "You've been charged with obstruction, resisting arrest, and harboring a dangerous animal. You want to tell me what happened?" "I was walking my dog. Dressed in army gear? I didn't expect to be profiled in my own neighborhood." He inhaled slowly. "You ready to tell them who you are?" "Not yet," he blinked. "You're serious?" "I want to see how deep this hole goes." Reggie exhaled and looked toward the guard. "They're not gonna like what happens next." "Neither will I," Brielle said, eyes narrowing. "But they need to learn what it means to pick the wrong woman on the wrong day." Reggie smirked. "You sure the army missed you?" She gave him a look. "No, but Titan did." Somewhere deep in the precinct, a dog howled, and the real battle was just getting started. Titan's howl still echoed in Brielle's head as she stepped into the fluorescent-lit hallway of the precinct. Her wrists were red from the cuffs, but her posture was unshaken. Reggie walked beside her, a storm in a suit, throwing daggers with his eyes at every officer they passed. "Let me handle the next move," he murmured. Brielle's jaw tensed. "No. You bought me time, now I need to use it." He started to protest, but her stare shut him up. She wasn't asking. Across the hall, Officer Nash stood near the holding desk, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. When he saw Brielle walking free, the smirk slid off his face like melting wax. "She lawyered up," he muttered to the desk sergeant, who said nothing. Brielle didn't even look at him. She had bigger concerns, like Titan, her partner, her soldier, her family. They'd taken him without authorization, based on nothing but fear and prejudice. No verification, no ID scan, just a dangerous black woman with a scary dog. And now her dog was missing. Outside, the late afternoon sun had dipped low, casting the precinct lot in long shadows. A light breeze rustled the American flag above the building. Reggie unlocked his car and turned to her. "You're planning something," he said. "Not a question." "Of course. You're not going back home, are you?" "Nope," Reggie rubbed his temples. "At least tell me where you're headed." Brielle slid into the passenger seat and shut the door. "Wherever they took my dog." They drove in tense silence down Highway 84 until Brielle's burner phone buzzed. She answered without looking. "Speak." "Ma'am, it's Lynn. I got eyes on Titan." Sergeant Mina Lynn was one of Brielle's former trainees, a K-9 specialist now working civilian contract jobs in Atlanta. Discreet, loyal, and skilled in more kinds of surveillance than the police even knew existed. "Where is he?" Brielle asked. "They transferred him to a private impound facility in Oak Ridge, not a pound. This place holds seized animals for further evaluation. Military tags weren't scanned. They logged him as an aggressive stray." Brielle's fingers clenched. "Address?" "I already texted it." "And Brielle, there's something else. A man, older white guy in uniform, was seen there. Badge said Internal Affairs, but I checked. That badge number's fake." Her eyes narrowed. Send me everything." Reggie glanced sideways as she ended the call. "You just got out of jail, and now you're about to commit a felony?" Brielle smiled grimly. "Depends how you define justice." The Oak Ridge Animal Retention Facility looked nothing like a pound. No barking, no front desk, just a blank gray warehouse with a steel door and one faded camera that probably hadn't worked in years. Brielle parked across the street in a dark alley and studied the layout. Reggie stayed behind, half out of his mind. "Please tell me you're not going in there alone." She was already pulling on gloves. "I trained half the people who wrote this building's security protocol," she said. "I'll be fine." "You're not in uniform." "I don't need a uniform." "Brielle, Reggie," she cut in. "You helped me with the law. Now let me do what I do best." He ran a hand through his hair. "This is reckless." "No," she said, voice low. "This is war." She slipped through the shadows and moved along the fence, vaulting over the back gate with the silence of a ghost. No alarms, no motion lights. She counted her steps and reached a side panel marked "Staff Only." She pulled a flat piece of military-issue plastic from her waistband and jimmied the lock. It clicked open. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. Rows of steel cages lined the hallway. Most were empty. A few held dogs with dull eyes, scared and confused. But at the far end, in the only cage with extra locks and a red warning tag, was Titan. He didn't bark. He didn't move. But his eyes met hers, and in that moment, everything else disappeared. She rushed to the cage. "Hold on, baby. I got you." Behind her, a door creaked. She spun, gun drawn. A man stood in the hallway. Tan jacket, civilian badge, Glock on his hip. His hands were raised, palms open. "Easy," he said. "I'm not here to stop you." She didn't lower the weapon. "Who are you?" "My name's Matthew Kerrigan. I work private oversight for seized military K9s. You need to listen carefully because your dog's life depends on it." Her aim didn't waver. "Go on." "Titan wasn't brought here by accident. They knew what he was, knew who you were." She narrowed her eyes. "Who's they?" "The department's internal clean team, rogue unit. Operates off-book. When cops screw up, they send people like me to bury it. I was supposed to file paperwork tonight that said Titan was unfit for duty and scheduled for euthanasia." A chill passed through her chest. "You still going to file it?" He shook his head. "No. I served. I know what these dogs are worth." "He's no stray." "Then why are you telling me this? Because one of the cops who arrested you, McAllister? He's on that team. He's not just racist. He's dirty. He's buried more than just dogs." Brielle lowered her weapon, just a fraction. "Proof?" He handed her a flash drive. "Camera in his cruiser. He didn't know it was synced to my server during training month. It caught him bragging about planning false stops on people who don't belong in his neighborhood. You were one of them." She took the drive. "You're risking your job," he exhaled. "I'm risking my conscience." She unlocked Titan's cage. The dog stepped out, slow and calm, pressed his head into her leg. She turned back to Kerrigan. "You never saw me." He nodded. But as she turned to leave, he added one more thing. "Be careful. You embarrassed them. They're going to hit back." Brielle looked down at Titan, then back at Kerrigan. They already did. She disappeared into the dark. And this time, she wasn't going to wait for justice. She was going to bring it with her. The scent of burnt coffee lingered in the precinct's break room. Officer Trent McAllister stood stiffly near the vending machine, pretending to check his phone while his gut churned. Something was off. He had made sure the dog was impounded. He'd seen it himself, taken in by animal control, logged under a false name. Just another aggressive stray. And yet, earlier that morning, whispers had started circulating. A cage found empty. An anonymous report leaked to Internal Affairs. A flash drive turned in, no source named, but the contents? Damning. "Yo, McAllister," called a uniformed officer from the hallway. "Captain wants you in the conference room. Like now." McAllister straightened his collar, pasted on his confident smirk, and headed toward the room, heart hammering behind the bravado. Inside sat Captain Evers, Reggie Simmons, and a third figure McAllister didn't recognize at first, until she turned. Brielle, hair pulled back tight, military-grade calm, the kind of stillness you only see in trained warriors right before a strike. "You're kidding me," McAllister scoffed. "You're letting her sit in on this?" She was a suspect not 24 hours ago. Reggie spoke first, voice razor-sharp. "She was never a suspect. She was a target. There's a difference." Evers looked tired, older than he had the day before. He slid a folder across the table. "Sit down, Trent." Reluctantly, McAllister dropped into the seat across from Brielle, keeping his eyes locked on her. But she wasn't looking at him. She was focused on the file. "We received footage from an anonymous source," Evers said. "Dashcam, your cruiser." McAllister stayed silent. "It records you calling in fabricated license plate flags on multiple vehicles, all with black drivers. You then initiate unlawful stops, and in one clip, you're overheard saying, 'Let's see how scared she gets when I pull the dog away.'" His smirk began to slip. "Captain, you lied on a report," Reggie interrupted. "You falsified justification for detainment. You filed a false incident report about an animal attack that never happened, and you tried to erase digital records. But you missed one." McAllister looked at Brielle. For the first time, she met his eyes. "I let you put your hands on me," she said, voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "I let you drag me across concrete, insult me, threaten my partner, all because I needed to know how deep this went. I didn't say a word because I wanted you comfortable." Her smile was cold. "You're not comfortable anymore, are you?" His lips parted, but before he could speak, Evers cut in. "You've been placed on administrative leave, effective immediately. IA is opening a criminal investigation." McAllister pushed back from the table, rising so fast his chair nearly flipped. "This is garbage. You're all falling for her act. She's just playing the system." Brielle stood slowly. "You think you're the system," she said, "but you're just a glitch, and I fix glitches." She walked out of the room without looking back. Outside, Titan waited beside Reggie's car, tail flicking, eyes alert. As soon as Brielle stepped outside, he padded over to her side and sat, like a soldier returning to post. "She's really doing it," said a voice behind them. Mina Lin approached from the corner of the building. She wore civilian clothes, but walked like she was still in uniform. "I came as soon as I heard the file dropped," she said, glancing toward the building. "They're scrambling. IA's pressuring Evers. A lot of cops are sweating right now." "Good," Brielle said. "Let them sweat. I've got eyes on the rest of McAllister's crew. They've started deleting old logs, wiping cameras. One guy skipped town already." Brielle nodded. "I figured he wasn't working alone." Reggie leaned on the car. "What's the play now?" "We keep moving," Brielle Sidnell said. "If one of them's gone, he's probably the one holding the real dirt. That means he's scared." "You think he'll talk?" "No," Brielle Diem said, "but someone else will." Mina handed her a slip of paper. "Security footage from the animal facility. It got passed to me anonymously, but guess what I found when I ran face recognition on one of the guards who escorted Titan? He used to work private security for a congressman. Guess who?" Brielle raised an eyebrow. Mina smiled. "Senator Alan Monroe, former military oversight chair, retired after a scandal no one could ever pin down. But this guy worked for him. For years." Brielle's mind began to spin. Things were connecting. Old power, hidden motives, the targeting of her and Titan. It might have gone deeper than a bad cop. "What if this isn't just racism?" Reggie asked quietly. "What if it's political? "It is," Brielle Seer said, "and personal." She reached into her jacket and pulled out a flash drive of her own. "Let's see what McAllister left behind." They drove to Mina's safe house on the outskirts of town, where encrypted servers lined the basement like something out of a spy movie. Brielle slid the drive into the terminal and waited as lines of code unfurled. The footage was grainy. But there it was, McAllister and two other officers in a garage, laughing over beers, talking about Brielle. Not just about her dog, but about how someone up top had asked for her name to be flagged if she ever came back to Atlanta. About how Titan was too dangerous to be left free. And then came the part that stopped them all cold. One of the men said, "She doesn't even know who set her up. Poor girl's hunting the wrong enemies." Reggie stared at the screen. "Set her up for what?" Brielle didn't blink. "That's what I intend to find out." And this time, she wasn't just fighting to clear her name. She was hunting the people who wanted her silenced. The motel was one of those places people forgot even existed, off the highway tucked between a pawn shop and a broken-down diner, its neon sign flickering like it was holding on to relevance by a wire. Brielle sat at the edge of the bed, staring at her laptop screen, its cold light dancing across her face. Titan lay beside her feet, ears twitching at every creak of the floorboards above them. He hadn't relaxed since the precinct meeting. Neither had she. The video still played in the background. McAllister's voice, arrogant and unfiltered, looped with every replay. "She doesn't even know who set her up." Brielle froze it mid-laugh, her fingers clenched around the flash drive until her knuckles turned white. She did know. Or at least, she had a damn good guess now. Reggie stepped out of the bathroom, toweling off his hands. "Evers isn't picking up," he said. "He might have been benched too, and Mina's on her way with another batch of personnel files. She said to be ready for bad news." Brielle didn't respond. Her mind was elsewhere, back to a memory she hadn't visited in years. The base in Afghanistan. The day Titan was officially retired from duty, and the man who had signed the order, Senator Alan Monroe. Back then, just a colonel, respected, feared, and, she now realized, far more dangerous than anyone ever suspected. "I think this started long before I got pulled over," she said quietly. Reggie sat down across from her. "How long are we talking?" "Years," she whispered. "Back when Titan and I intercepted that illegal arms shipment. Remember the one that vanished from records? We reported it, but it never made headlines." "You think Monroe was involved in that?" "I think he orchestrated the whole thing, and I think someone's been trying to erase everyone connected to it." Just then, the door burst open. Mina. "Brielle, we've got a problem." Titan jumped up but didn't growl. He recognized her. Brielle motioned for her to come in. Mina dropped a thick folder on the bed. "They're building a federal case against you." "What?" "Obstruction of justice, impersonating a federal officer, endangering law enforcement, animal assault." Brielle blinked. "None of that's true." "I know, but it doesn't have to be. They have documents now, altered files. They've started feeding the media a narrative, calling you a disgraced ex-soldier who's using PTSD as a shield for erratic behavior." Reggie stood up. "That's insane. She served with distinction. She has clearance levels most people dream of." "Not anymore," Mina said. "They pulled her record from the public DoD archive. Everything's redacted or missing. They're rewriting her history, Brielle." Brielle stood, her voice barely a whisper. "They want me gone." "No," Mina corrected. "They want you discredited. Then gone." Silence fell over the room, the weight of betrayal heavy in the air. Reggie broke it first. "So what do we do? Sit here and wait for the marshals to come knock?" "No," Brielle said. "We hit back. I know someone who can help us trace the financial trail from that arms shipment. If Monroe profited off it, we'll find it. But we'll need to move fast." Mina narrowed her eyes. You're talking about Ethan Doyle, aren't you? Yeah, Brielle replied. I saved his sister in Mosul. He owes me a favor. He also builds digital firewalls for private intelligence networks, Mina said. The kind of stuff that gets you flagged by Homeland. All the better, Brielle replied. He knows how to disappear and how to expose people who think they're untouchable. Reggie looked between them. You sure he'll help? Brielle reached for her burner phone. He'll pick up. He still owes Titan a stake. Later that night, the three of them drove to a warehouse in Savannah, a city 2 hours south. It was past midnight by the time they reached the abandoned port terminal. Inside, surrounded by outdated shipping containers and crates covered in dust, a man with a long beard and mismatched socks stood waiting. Brielle, Ethan said, arms open. Still traveling with the world's deadliest furball, I see. Titan growled low, not in warning, but familiarity. He remembered Ethan. You still working for ghosts? She asked. Only the rich kind, Ethan smirked. You need something buried or found? Both, she said, handing over the flash drive and a folder. He examined the contents quickly. This is ugly. We've got less than a week before they spin this out of control. Ethan looked up. I'll need 36 hours and complete radio silence. They're already watching you. If I ping the wrong server, this whole place could get fried. You'll have it, Brielle Saul said. He paused. You do know what happens if we find the money trail. Monroe's not just some backbencher anymore. He's got PACs, lobbyists, retired generals. He's got federal judges in his pocket. Then we take them all down, Brielle replied. Mina laughed dryly. You sound like you're planning a coup. No, Brielle Lau said, glancing at Titan, whose eyes locked with hers. I'm planning justice. The rain came down in sheets as Brielle sat inside Ethan's bunker, watching lines of code fly across the screen. It had been 18 hours since he started digging through firewalls, decrypting financial data, and sifting through fake names and ghost accounts. Titan sat near the door, head up, ears alert. He didn't sleep when Brielle didn't sleep. Ethan cracked his knuckles. We've got something. Or rather, someone. Brielle leaned forward. Monroe? Ethan shook his head. Worse. The guy laundering the money for Monroe. Guess who used to head internal affairs for Georgia State Patrol? Brielle blinked. Lafferty. Ethan nodded. Turns out after he retired, he joined a private contracting firm, Frontline Secure. They were hired to audit military shipments overseas. Guess who signed the audit exemptions? He clicked, and a document flashed up with a signature, Alan Monroe. Mina, pacing behind them, stopped in her tracks. So the man who tried to frame you, Brielle, was the same guy profiting off a cover-up, and your arrest was his insurance policy. Reggie slammed his fist into his palm. They didn't just want you gone. They needed you discredited in case this ever got out. Brielle's voice dropped to a whisper. They were erasing witnesses. Ethan scrolled again, and using your arrest as the perfect distraction. Meanwhile, shipments marked as destroyed were being rerouted to private buyers overseas. Brielle exhaled, her shoulders tense. We have to go public. That's suicide, Ethan said. You go public now, you're just a former soldier with a grudge. They'll drown the truth in politics. We need a name that matters, Mina said. Someone in power who isn't bought. Brielle hesitated. I might know someone. Reggie raised a brow. Who? She stood up, pulling a dog tag from her duffel bag. General Corbin Matthews. He retired 5 years ago, but before that, he was the one who signed off on Titan's military classification. He believed in the code, and he never liked Monroe. Ethan gave a low whistle. That guy still has friends in the Pentagon. Exactly, Brielle said. He's clean. If we can get him on our side, we might have a shot. Later that night, the team split. Brielle and Titan drove north toward D.C., while Mina and Reggie stayed behind to manage any digital fallout. The highway was dark and nearly empty. Brielle's grip on the wheel tightened with every mile. Titan, sensing her unease, placed his head on her lap. "I'm okay, boy," she whispered, "just tired of being hunted for telling the truth." As they neared Maryland, blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror. Brielle's heart dropped. She pulled over, windows already down, hands on the wheel. A single trooper stepped out, tall, white, wearing tactical gloves, not standard for a routine stop. "License and registration," he said flatly. "Officer, may I ask the reason for the stop?" she asked calmly. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for his belt. Titan growled. That's when Brielle saw it, on his chest. The same patch the rogue officer wore the night she was arrested. Not a state badge, a private security emblem. Frontline secure. She didn't wait. "Titan, protect!" Titan lunged from the back seat as the officer reached for his weapon. Within seconds, the man was on the ground, pinned, Titan's teeth inches from his throat. Brielle stepped out, gun drawn, hands steady. "Who sent you?" she asked. The man spat blood. "You're dead, you just don't know it yet." She pressed the muzzle against his temple. "Wrong. I just got started." Blue lights appeared again, but this time from the other side of the road. Actual state troopers. Brielle raised her hands, quickly identifying herself. "U.S. Army Reserve, former captain. This man isn't law enforcement. Check his patch." Two troopers got out cautiously. One examined the downed man and immediately called it in. "He's not one of ours," he said. "He's private. No jurisdiction here." As they cuffed the attacker, Brielle asked, "Can I go?" One of the troopers nodded. "We'll write it up as a civilian defense incident. You were right to act. Get out of here, ma'am, and good luck." Back in the car, Brielle finally exhaled. She turned to Titan. "They're getting desperate." The next morning, Brielle sat across from General Matthews in a quiet breakfast diner outside D.C. He looked older, but still sharp. His uniform replaced by a pressed gray suit, but his eyes hadn't changed. "I heard rumors," he said, "but this is treason." She slid the folder across the table. "I need your help, sir. Not just for me. For every soldier who ever followed the rules and got punished for it." Matthew studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You've got it." She blinked. "Just like that? You saved my son's life in Kandahar. You think I forgot that?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a Department of Defense pass. "You're going to testify." "In front of a special Senate subcommittee. I'll set it up. But be warned. They won't just come after you. They'll come after anyone who helps you." "I can handle that," she said. Matthews leaned in. "Then let's finish what you started." As Brielle left the diner, she spotted a little girl walking with her mother outside. A black girl, maybe 6, in a hoodie that said, "Future Leader." She paused, smiled. For a moment, all the chaos and corruption felt distant, because if she won this, maybe that little girl wouldn't have to fight the same war someday. She got back in the car with Titan and whispered, "We're not done. Not yet." The marble floors of the Senate building echoed beneath Brielle's boots. She moved with quiet determination, flanked by General Matthews and an aide who looked no older than 25. Titan trotted beside her, his presence drawing the attention of everyone in the corridor. The weight of what was about to happen pressed heavy on her chest, but her gaze never wavered. In the waiting room outside the hearing chamber, General Matthews turned to her. "They'll try to rattle you, discredit you. Don't let them." Brielle nodded. "They've already tried everything else. Just tell the truth," he said softly. She took a deep breath. "That's the only thing I have left." The door opened. A staffer waved her in. "They're ready." Inside, the room was colder than she expected, physically and politically. The senators sat in a curved row, their expressions unreadable. Cameras lined the walls. Reporters whispered as she stepped up to the table, Titan sitting at her feet. Senator Powell, a silver-haired man from Ohio, tapped his pen against a notepad. "Captain Brielle Jordan, you understand you are under oath?" "I do," she replied. "Begin." Brielle laid out the facts: her arrest, the falsified reports, the surveillance footage that vanished from evidence. She walked them through the fake arms shipments, the private security companies, the signatures tying it all together. "What you're describing," Senator Kim from California interrupted, "is a conspiracy involving multiple levels of government and military contractors. Why should we believe you?" Brielle didn't flinch. "Because I brought proof, and because I have nothing to gain by coming here. You think this helps my life? You think I enjoy being hunted?" She opened the folder Matthews had given her and passed it to the clerk. "These are the audits, signed, dated, and these are emails from Monroe's office threatening whistleblowers. Some of those names, they're dead now." A murmur ran through the chamber. Senator Powell leaned forward. "And the dog, Titan, what is his relevance to this case?" "He was assigned to my unit, trained for high-risk operations. When they couldn't take me down, they marked him as property. They tried to euthanize him because he protected me during the raid. He's not a weapon, he's a soldier, just like me." At that moment, the chamber doors burst open. A man in a suit stumbled in, flanked by two Capitol officers. Brielle's breath caught. "Ethan," she whispered. His face was bruised, lip cut, but his eyes were burning. "I need to speak," he said, panting. Senator Powell frowned. "Who are you?" "My name is Ethan Graves. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I hacked the Frontline Secure database 3 days ago and downloaded over 400 gigabytes of encrypted files. I've just decrypted them. You're going to want to see this." He handed a drive to the clerk. "In there are flight logs, payments, wire transfers to shell companies, names, including 2 on this panel." The room erupted. Senator Kim shot to her feet. "This is outrageous." "Sit down," Powell snapped. "This hearing is in recess. Guards, take that drive to classified review immediately." As the room buzzed in chaos, General Matthews leaned toward Brielle. "You just turned this from a hearing into a war." Outside, the press swarmed. Cameras flashed, questions shouted. "Captain Jordan, do you believe your life is in danger?" "Will you testify again if this goes to a grand jury?" Brielle shielded her eyes, stepping into a black SUV waiting at the curb. Ethan was already inside, nursing an ice pack. "You okay?" she asked. "Not really. They jumped me in an alley before I could deliver the data. If Titan hadn't tracked me..." Brielle turned to her who was calmly licking blood from Ethan's jacket. "You saved him again, huh?" The SUV drove in silence until Ethan said, "You know they won't stop now." "I'm counting on it," she said quietly. "Let them come. But this time they'll be facing someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove." Back at the safe house, Mina was on a secure call with Reggie. The line crackled as she patched in. "We just got word. The press conference is scheduled for tomorrow morning. National coverage. We're blowing this wide open." Ethan exhaled. "We should lay low tonight." But before anyone could reply, Titan stiffened. A car engine outside. 3 of them. Reggie's voice came through the speaker. "They found you." Brielle grabbed her Glock. "Get to the basement. Ethan, secure the drive. Mina, back me up." Lights flicked out. Footsteps approached. And in the darkness, Titan growled, a low, guttural sound that promised one thing. They weren't taking her alive. Not tonight. Not ever. Gunshots shattered the night. Brielle hit the floor as the window behind her exploded inward. Shards of glass rained across the living room, embedding in the couch and floorboards. Titan barked fiercely, his body shielding Mina, who had instinctively dropped to cover the encrypted drive with her own. "They're coming through the front and the alley," Ethan shouted from the stairwell, pistol in hand, face streaked with blood and sweat. Brielle didn't hesitate. "We hold them until Reggie gets here. No one's going down tonight." Titan bolted forward, catching the first masked intruder mid-air as he dove through the broken frame. The man screamed as the dog's teeth clamped around his arm, sending his weapon flying. Brielle shot the second man in the leg before he could pull the trigger. "Secure the hallway," she yelled to Ethan, grabbing her second mag. Mina crouched low, pulling a flash drive from her jacket. "If they get in, this has to make it out." "Not if—" "We're not losing tonight," Brielle snapped. The house trembled with the sound of tactical boots rushing the porch. Another flashbang went off in the backyard, rattling the cabinets and sending framed pictures to the floor. It was clear. This wasn't a hit. It was a cleanup operation. They wanted everything gone, especially her. Titan lunged again, dragging a second attacker down the steps by the leg. His growls echoed like a war cry through the house. Brielle ducked behind the kitchen counter, grabbed the emergency radio, and called out, "Echo 1 to Reggie. We are compromised. Repeat, compromised. 10+ armed. Location hot." Static. Then, "Hold your position. 2 minutes out. Hang in there." "They're jamming the main frequency," Mina said, her hands flying across the tablet. "But I've piggybacked onto the fire department's emergency channel." Reggie's signal got through. More rounds flew. Plaster and wood splintered. Brielle's body ached, her mind raced. But then, amid the chaos, something strange happened. The attackers suddenly stopped firing. Silence. Brielle glanced at Ethan. He shook his head, confused. Why'd they? And then a low mechanical buzz filled the house. Drones. She peeked out the back window and spotted 2 small black quadcopters hovering just above the yard, equipped with thermal sensors and non-lethal weapons. Then another, and another. Not government issue, private military. "They're trying to smoke us out," she muttered, "force us to panic." But Titan stood firm, teeth bared, blocking the stairs like a final sentinel. Just then, Reggie's voice broke through the silence from the stairwell. "Don't shoot. I brought help." Behind him came 2 figures in tactical gear, faces hidden, but movements sharp. One of them held up a badge. "Captain Jordan, we're with the Federal Oversight Committee. You've stirred up something bigger than you know. We've been watching this operation for months. We're here to extract you." "Who the hell sent you?" Brielle demanded. "The people who still believe in the Constitution," the agent said flatly. Mina exhaled in disbelief. "Is this real?" But Brielle wasn't buying it. "If that's true, what's the passphrase?" The agent looked her in the eye. "Shadow Protocol, Section 9, Operation Polaris." She lowered her gun a fraction. "Fine. Then you know what's at stake." "We do. And we've got a bird on the roof in 3 minutes. Get what you need and burn the rest." Ethan retrieved the encrypted drive, while Mina quickly uploaded decoys to their old server as a distraction. Titan remained on alert, still staring down the stairwell as if he sensed something no one else could. And he was right. Just as they were moving out, the back wall erupted inward. A hulking man in full armor entered, firing blindly. One of the agents took a round to the vest and dropped. Brielle pulled Ethan behind her, firing twice into the man's shoulder. It barely fazed him. Titan launched. The dog's attack was savage, unrelenting. He latched onto the intruder's neck armor, yanking him back just enough for Brielle to land a shot straight into his exposed visor. The man crashed backward, twitching. The second agent pulled her up. "We've got to go. Now." They moved fast, through the smoke, the sirens, the residual gunfire. On the roof, a helicopter waited, its blades chopping through the sky like an urgent drumbeat. Brielle helped lift Mina in. Ethan followed. Titan leapt just as the ladder began to rise. As the chopper gained altitude, she looked down at the house. Now surrounded by vehicles with no markings, flashing no lights. A full sweep team had arrived, but they were too late. Brielle turned to the agent across from her. "What happens now?" He handed her a file. Inside were mugshots, contracts, names of senators and generals. This goes public in 72 hours, with your help. And if I say no? You won't. You've already risked everything. She looked at Titan, who rested his head on her lap, eyes finally at peace. And in that moment she understood. They weren't just running anymore. They were coming back to finish this. The courtroom buzzed with tension. It wasn't the usual courtroom energy. It was heavier, electric, like everyone in the room knew they were moments away from witnessing something historic. Phones were hidden but recording. Reporters filled the back row, and seated in the defendant's chair was a man who once thought he was untouchable, Captain Wade Lorman. Brielle sat beside Reggie at the front, her suit tailored, her posture sharp. Mina was on her left, fingers wrapped tightly around the encrypted drive, now reduced to several printed pages and official affidavits. Ethan leaned against the side wall, arms crossed, nodding toward her, with that quiet fire still burning in his eyes. But it was Titan who sat like royalty at her feet, calm and alert, as if he knew this was the finish line. "Your Honor," said the federal prosecutor, stepping forward, "we are presenting not only charges of unlawful imprisonment, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy, but evidence of a long-standing domestic black ops network that funneled government resources into targeting U.S. citizens under the false guise of national security." The courtroom gasped. Lorman's lawyer stood to object, but the judge raised a hand. "Let her finish." What followed was a 45-minute breakdown of every corrupt move Lorman and his allies had made over the past decade. Surveillance of whistleblowers, illegal raids on innocent civilians, intimidation of journalists. And then came the evidence Reggie had helped Brielle recover. One by one, faces flashed across the projector screen. Elected officials, ranking military, corporate board members. Silent, watching, complicit. When the prosecutor turned to the jury, her voice softened. None of this would have come to light if not for one woman. A woman they tried to silence. A soldier they underestimated. A handler whose loyalty wasn't to power, but to people. All eyes turned to Brielle. Lorman laughed, bitter and dry. "She's just a dog trainer." Brielle stood slowly. "Wrong, I'm a handler, and my job is to protect this country from threats, especially the ones hiding in uniform." The judge leaned forward. "Do you wish to testify, Miss Jordan?" "I do," and she did. She told the court everything, from the moment Titan was ripped from her unit under shady orders, to the attack on her safe house, to the encrypted files they tried to erase, and the people who died protecting the truth. Her voice didn't shake once. But when she talked about the soldier she'd lost overseas, Titan's original partner, her jaw tightened. "They used his memory like a tool," she said. "They thought if they broke my dog, they'd break me. But they forgot something. Loyalty isn't trained. It's earned." Titan let out a soft growl at that, and the courtroom rippled with quiet approval. When the verdict was read, the air cracked open. Captain Wade Lorman, guilty on all charges. Applause erupted. The judge banged his gavel but couldn't stop it. People cried, reporters ran out with live updates, and as U.S. Marshals cuffed Lorman, he looked at Brielle for the first time, not with hate but with something colder. Fear. Later, outside on the courthouse steps, cameras flashed as Brielle stood with Titan and addressed the press. "I didn't come forward to be famous. I came forward because silence lets the wrong people stay in power. And I know that won't fix everything overnight, but it's a start." A reporter called out, "What's next for you, Miss Jordan?" She looked down at Titan, then back at the crowd. "We build something better. We hold people accountable, and we teach our daughters that loyalty, courage, and truth aren't just words on medals. They're the reason we keep fighting." She turned to walk away. The crowd parted, giving her space not out of obligation, but out of respect. As the sun dipped low behind the Capitol building, Reggie stepped beside her. "You know, he said. "This could have gone 100 ways. Most of them ended with you in a body bag." "Yeah," Brielle replied, eyes forward. "But this one didn't." Titan barked once, proud and free. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, hope, anger, courage, then share it. Subscribe to the channel. These stories reflect real battles people face every day. Some win, some don't. But by telling them, maybe we help shift the world just a little closer to justice.